Hello everyone, my name is Saurabh Jain and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we'll look at several ways in which you can run Python code. Followed by this, I will give you a short description about the print function. Let's get started. So the first way in which you can execute Python code is from the Python interpreter. In order to have the interpreter, I would first need a command prompt. So I would type cmd and a command prompt window would pop up, and then I would type in Python. Right, so I'm in the Python interpreter now, and let's say I were to execute some arithmetic operations of this sort, right? I would type these things and press enter, right? So I would get the output over here. The Python interpreter is meant to be used when you want to experiment with some code snippets, or just do experiment with smaller operations of Python code. You are not going to use the Python interpreter to develop some complex programs, because this interface is quite troublesome to use. It's not developer friendly. So we'll take a look at what other options we have, right? So this was about the Python interpreter, and if you want to exit from the Python interpreter, all you have to do is type exit followed by round brackets and press enter. The next thing that we want to see is the Jupyter Notebooks, right? We have already seen this in the last video and we would see it again. Alright, so I am presented with the Jupyter Lab interface. It would take some time to load. Alright, so here I am. So what I can do is I have already created a demo file, and I would showcase the use of print statements, right? So the next option to execute your Python code is using a Jupyter notebook. Now Jupyter notebooks are something which are used mainly by data scientists and people who work as data analysts. The main purpose of Jupyter notebooks is you write the code here, and the output, it would be there in this notebook itself, right? So what I can do is I can do my analysis or do my Python code for a particular task and share this notebook with my colleague, right? And he will be able to execute this notebook on his machine, provided the code is right and all the necessary libraries are correctly imported. So this is the main use case of Jupyter notebooks. This is basically used when you are learning something, or just experimenting with a lot of stuff, right? And once you know that this Jupyter notebook is finalized and you want to deploy the code that you have written inside it as a app, then you can convert the code within this Jupyter notebook to a Python script and have a .py file, which would be then used in your application, right? So apart from this, I'm also going to introduce you to a print function. So this is a inbuilt function within Python which is used to print something on the screen. It either takes string. This is the string that I'm passing within double quotes, and it will simply print out like this here, right? Hello world. And if we want to understand this syntax or what is actually happening in this command is, so print is inbuilt function in Python. Mind you that Python is a case sensitive language. So if you type capital P here and try to run this, it will result in an error, right? It says print is not defined. So we have to make sure that the case sensitive functions are correctly written, right? And if I write it and if I execute it now, it will run correctly, right? So the syntax is pretty simple. So first you have to write the print function name followed by round bracket, and then either single quotes or double quotes, which will have your string that you want to output on the screen, right? And then corresponding closing quotes and the parentheses, right? I have explained it here in the visual form. right? So in the previous example I have used double quotes, and now if I execute it in single quotes, this would run, right? Now taking a look at the second example, this would result in an error because I'm starting with double quotes and ending with single quote, right? So this would throw an error. I can use single quotes within double quotes simply as it is, right? I don't need to make any changes. This would run. I can print more than one string at a time like this. They would be separated by comma, and simply execute this, right? So by default, when you are using three strings or three or more than one string in a print function, they are separated by space, but you can override or change this setting. You can pass a string which would be used instead of the space. So here the name of the separator is sep, and you have to enclose it within double quotes or single quotes and execute it, and you would see the difference, right? So instead of space, I'm now having two asterisk symbol here, right? And let's say if I want to append this dollar sign at the end of the strings, then I would pass this parameter called end and pass this dollar sign, right? So in the end I have this dollar symbol. Apart from this, there is another way that you can do. You can print all these things in three different lines like this: print Saurabh, and print Jen, and print Python, and they would be printed in three different lines. Right now, there can be some cases in which you want to have all the strings inside a single print statement, but print them on three different lines, right? So what you can use is, these are called as escape characters, this \n, right? So you'll encounter this \n characters in the future, and you can read more about it from this link. So this is the same thing printed in one single line, right? Next thing I want to introduce you to is the single line comment. So let's say if I want to communicate someone that what this particular code snippet does, I can include single line or multiple line comments. So if you want to just write a single line comment, as we have done here, right? Yeah. So you can use hash followed by some text. So when you execute this cell, Python won't be able to interpret these things. It will ignore it. It won't be executed as Python code, right? So that is how you would execute your comments, right? If I execute this, nothing would happen. See this, right? The third option of writing and executing your Python code is using text editors. If you are on Windows, you have Notepad, and there are advanced editors like Notepad++ or Sublime Text, in which you can write Python code and execute using the command line, right? So here I have launched Notepad++ and written this print statement, which would print this line when this file, right? So I would save this file, right? I would give it a name called hello world.py. Always keep in mind that you save your Python code with a extension .py. If you fail to do that, the Python interpreter will not be able to figure out that this is a Python file and it needs to be executed. The file in which you write the Python code must end with a .py name, right? I would save this file, right? And if I cannot directly run it from this directory, right? If I double click on it, nothing would happen. It would simply open this file in the editor or in the IDE that I have configured, right? So the way to execute this file is, I would open the command prompt, and here I would type Python followed by name of the file that we have saved, right? And if I run this, it would give me this output: hello world, my name is Saurabh. So this is how you write and run a Python file using a text editor and from the command prompt. We just wrote a Python command in a Notepad++ file and executed it using the command prompt. While this may be useful when you have simple programs to write, but this can be extremely inefficient when you have a large program to write. In such scenarios, we use what is called as an integrated development environments, or IDE for short form. So what an IDE does is it will prompt you with auto completion tabs, or it can also give you, some warnings, like if you are using a variable before it is being declared, right? So these are some of the advantages when you use an IDE. So one such IDE that I use and I would recommend you to use would be VS Code, right? So VS Code is developed by Microsoft. It is free and open source, right? So you can use it for your Python development. Simply go to this website code.visualstudio.com, and depending on your OS you can download the executable for it, right? So go ahead and install Windows. The installation is pretty straightforward. You don't need to customize anything. Just click on next and the setup would be complete. Now that you have installed VS Code, let's try to install the Python extension. So when you launch VS Code, you would be presented with a welcome screen. Your welcome screen would be different than mine because I have already used it before. So the very first thing that you need to do is install the Python extension. So on the left hand side, what you see are several options. The first one is the file explorer, where you would see all your files. The last one, which is of importance to us, is the extensions manager. So I would go here and type Python. So you have to select this particular extension which is developed by Microsoft. Click on this and you'd see that there are about 45 million downloads at this point of recording, and I would click on the install button. It would take few seconds to install and a reload may be required. Okay, so the extension is enabled and I am not required to reload the IDE. So as you can see on this Explorer side, I have clicked on the Explorer. So the test folder is open, but we already have created a folder where there are print related files. So I would go to that folder. I would click on open folder and click on this print folder which already exists. It can be different in your case depending on the project structure that you are using. So once I do that, all the files which are in that particular print folder would be shown here. Now we want to create a file that would execute a simple hello world program. So to do that, what I would do is click on this plus button here, right? And I would say new hello.py. Okay, once I hit enter, I am presented with this empty file. So here I would say print hello from VS Code, right? So once this is done, I would click on save, and after this, on the right hand side you see this run Python file. So I would click on this button. So this basically runs the file which is there, which is currently in the workspace, right? So after I executed this file, I get a message that using the Python command, this particular file located in this directory is executed, and this is the output of that file. So this is how you run a Python file from VS Code. So we have come to an end of this video. To summarize, we learned different ways in which we can write and execute our Python code. The first one was using the Python interpreter. Second in the list was using a text editor. The third was using Jupyter Notebook, and we also had a walkthrough of the print function, the several ways in which you can use it. And the fourth was using VS Code. I hope this video was useful to you. Thank you for watching. See you next time.